Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bedtime Stories. I'm your host, Tracy. We are working on the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, and this is the second part of The Knight's Tale. One night in Thebes, when Arcite had lived through his cruel torment for a year or two, all in a dream he saw the winged god stand before him with his sleepy wand in hand. Mercury, with a wreath on his bright hair, bidding him be of hope and free from care. The god was dressed as when he put to sleep. Argus, whose watchful task it was to keep. The lovely Io, with his 100 eyes. He spoke to Arcite thus: "You must arise, and go at once to Athens. There your grief, for so it is ordained, shall find relief." Arcite with that awoke and gave a start. Now truly, what a shrewd blow struck my heart! He cried, "I'll go to Athens at a breath, nor fail to see again, for dread of death, her whom I love and serve with all my might. Death is no matter, dying in her sight." He caught up a large mirror and saw there how changed his color was by his despair, so that he hardly knew his face his own. He thought in Athens he might pass unknown, if he disguised his rank, and every day might see his lady. So he put away his knight's attire and dressed himself instead as a poor laborer who worked for bread. You know that feeling. And with a single squire who knew his case, and took a like disguise, he set his face toward Athens, where he came the shortest way. So to the court he took himself one day, and proffered his services to work by hand, as any such of drudge men might demand. As any sort of drudge men might demand. So, to be brief, he fell into a post with Emily's own steward. He could boast a young and mighty frame, and truth to tell, was also wise and shrewd, and he could well draw water and hew wood to serve his game. He saw that he said, that Philostratus was his name, and for a year or two he played his hand as a page in Emily's house. In all the land, no servant was so well beloved as he. Men said it could be only charity if Theseus raised him from his mean condition and gave him some more honorable position. So Theseus made him, in a little while, squire of his chamber to support his style. He furnished him with gold, and faithfully men brought him year by year in secrecy his due from Thebes in revenue and rent, which he so quietly and wisely spent that no man came to wonder at the source. So for 3 years his life fell in this course, his bearing such that whether in peace or war, on no man else did Theseus set such store. Thesis, sorry. No, surely it's not. It's Theseus. Yeah, sorry. I'm tired. I've worked a lot of hours today. Meanwhile, in wretched darkness, Palamon, for 7 years in his dungeon cell lived on, wasted away by torment and distress, who feels the double edge of bitterness. As much as he, by love distracted so, he threatens clean out of his wits to go. And with all this he is a prisoner, perpetually, not only for a year. This light is wonderful. I look fantastic. Ah. But who could rhyme his pains in English rightly? Not I, and so I pass them over lightly. It happened in the 7th year, in May, the 3rd night of the month, as old books say. Whether it was by chance or destiny, for if a thing is destined, it shall be, that shortly after midnight, through a friend, he broke from the great tower where he was penned, and fled the city as fast as he could go. For he had lured the jailer to drink so of a strong potion mixed by his design from Theban opiates in narcotic wine. that all the night, however men might shake him, the jailer slept. There was no one who could wake him. He fled as fast as he could make his way. The short night stood upon the verge of day, when his necessity would be to hide. And in a grove that grew there close beside, he lurked in fear as long as it was light. He meant to hide himself and press by night for Thebes, where he could beg his every friend to help him war on Theseus to the end. To the end. For he would either be deprived of life or win his Emily to be his wife. The busy lark, the herald of the day, sings welcome to the morning's early gray, and fiery Phoebus rises up so bright that the whole east is laughing with the light. And with his beams he makes dry work and brief of silver drops that hang on every leaf. Arcite, the first squire in Prince Theseus's court, sees the clear morning ripe for Maytime sport, and thinking of the state of his desire, mounts on a courser, mettlesome as fire, and rides into the fields a mile or two, right toward the grove that I described to you, to make himself a wreath of branches torn from the honeysuckle and the fresh hawthorn. And loud he sang, seeing the world so bright, May with your flowers and green groves all alight, welcome, fresh May, and leapt down from his horse with lusty heart, and quickly took his course into a thicket, striding hither and yon, along a path by which this Palamon was hidden, where he thought that none could see. For in sore terror of his life was he. He had no notion it could be Arcite. God knows he had little cause to think it might. But truly, it has been said these many years, the meadows have their eyes, the woods have ears. A man does well to walk an even way. Unplanned encounters happen every day. Arcite was unaware his path had led to where his cousin could hear whatever he said. For in the thicket Palamon sat still, and so when he had roved and had his fill of trolling out his lusty rodelay, he fell into a study in the way these lovers do in their quaint changing fashion, now in the bud, now in the briar of passion, now up, now down, like a bucket in a well. With them it's always Friday, truth to tell. For now it shines, and now the rain falls fast. So can inconstant Venus overcast the spirits of her people, as her day is full of alteration, so are they. Friday is off day, seldom like the week. First Arcite sang, then sighed with heavy cheek. Alas, he said, the day that saw my birth. How long will Thebes be trodden to the earth? Through Juno's persecution, now disgrace lies on the issue of Amphion's race. And the royal blood of Cadmus, the first man of Thebes, whose walls and towers he began, and in the city first was crowned a king, I follow him, and am his true offspring, by very lineage of the royal stock. But now I have become a man to mock. For him that is my mortal enemy, I serve as a mean squire in poverty. And Juno puts me to a still worse shame. I dare not call myself by my true name. Once I was Arcite, now I must be known as Philostratus, a name not worth a bone. Dread Mars and Juno, you have thus destroyed all the great lineage that Thebes enjoyed, except for me and wretched Palamon, martyred in prison. All our line is gone. And to make worse my cruel destiny, love's fiery dart has pierced me utterly, and given me with his flame a fatal hurt. My death was shaped before I wore a shirt. You, Emily, have killed me with your eye. You are the reason I am doomed to die. My other griefs would be too small to measure, if only I could do you any pleasure. Palamon felt a cold sword swiftly slide into his heart. No longer could he hide, but shook with rage as he heard Arcite's tale, and from the thicket, crazed and deathly pale, burst out and cried, False traitor! You are caught! Who love her for whose sake I am distraught, with so much pain and anguish, you who swore to be my brother, the true name you bore. You've changed and duped Prince Theseus. I, your foe, tell you, you shall not love my lady so. And though I have no weapon in this place, but have escaped from prison by fortune's grace. Either you die or give up Emily. Choose which you will, for you shall not go free. Scornfully Arcite heard this tale outpoured. Fierce as a lion, he pulled out his sword. By God, he said, who sits in heaven above, except that you are sick and crazed for love, and have no sword or weapon at command, you should for certain die here at my hand. For I denounce the bond you had from me. What fool, you should remember love is free, and I will love her still, for all your might. And since you are in truth a worthy knight, willing in combat to decide our case, I give my word, tomorrow, in this place, with armor enough for both of us, I'll be. You take the best and leave the worst for me. I'll bring you meat and drink and clothes tonight, and if it happens you can prove your right to win in battle my Lady Emily, have her. She can be yours for all of me. In love and power, as wise men declare, sorry, hold on. Let me start that part over. In love and power, as wise men declare, friendship can never be allowed a share. So Palamon and Arcite fully learned. Before the next daybreak, Arcite returned, riding upon his horse and stark alone, with armor that he had procured unknown. And in the grove, at the moment they had set, these two knights, Palamon and Arcite, met. Then flared and rose the color in each face, as in the hunters in the realm of Thrace, when hoping for a lion or bear they stand, expectant in the gap, with spear in hand, and hear him rushing through the undergrowth, bursting through boughs and thickets, breaking both, and think, here comes my mortal enemy, I'll kill him, no mistake, or he'll kill me. For either I must slay him at the gap, or he'll slay me, if there's the least mishap. The knights were like such hunters in their hue, for each well judged the other whom he knew. There was no good day, and no salutation, but straight, without a word of hesitation, each of them offered help to arm the other, as cheerfully as if he were his brother. And after that, with sharp spears poised and strong, they thrust at each other wonderfully long. Fiercely as frothing boars whom madness rankles, they fought in blood up to the very ankles. So strong is destiny, wide minister, over the earth and general officer, who executes what God himself foresees, that incredulous of its decrees, men swore the opposite by yea and nay, yet there will happen on some fated day what has not happened in 1,000 years, for certainly our appetites and fears, whether of war or peace or hate or love, are ruled by that prevision up above. I have in mind Prince Theseus. His desire is hot for hunting and burns with such a fire, especially to hunt the stag in May, that he is never in bed at the break of day, but up and clad at dawn, ready to ride with hounds and horn and huntsmen at his side. Clear was the day, and Theseus with his queen, Hippolyta, and Emily, all in green, are ridden out a-hunting royally, to where a grove arose conveniently, in which there was a stag, he had been told, over a brook, and on they ride and hold their course until at last they reach the place, where peering through the light, with shaded face, the prince perceived Arcite and Palamon, as fierce as two boars, fighting on and on. Their bright swords whirled as if the lightest stroke were hideous enough to fell an oak. He knew them not, nor what they meant to do, but spurred his horse, and was between the two, with drawn sword, crying, Hold! Now for your head! No more, each one of you, he shall be dead, who lifts his sword to give another scar. Tell me what manner of men or knights you are, so rash as to make here this bloody stir without a judge or other officer, as if you fought a fair field royally. Palamon answered unreservedly, and said, Prince Theseus, we deserve our death. We are encumbered by our very breath. Two wretched captives, what more need I say? Give us no mercy, but proceed to slay. First me, and then my fellow, by just right, or slay him first. For this is that Arcite, exiled, unless he wished to lose his head, and so deserves by sentence to be dead. This is the very man who gave his name as Philostratus when to court he came, and now is your chief squire, and this is he who duped you for the love of Emily. For since the day has come for me to die, let me confess in honesty that I am wretched Palamon, your mortal foe, escaped from prison, and I cherish so the love of Emily, the fair and bright. I am content to die here in her sight. Wherefore I ask my sentence and my death, but take my fellow's life in the same breath, for it is just that we should both be slain. Prince Theseus answered, This is short and plain. Not from the rack, but your own lips proceed your sentences. By Mars, you die indeed. The queen began to weep, and Emily, and all the ladies in the company. It was the greatest pity, thought they all, that such a chance as this was should befall. For these were men of breeding and estate, and only love provoked this fierce debate. They saw the bloody wounds gape wide and sore, and they began to cry out all the more, Pity us women! On bare knees they fell, and would have kissed the prince's feet as well. At last his mood flowed in a milder fashion, for noble hearts run quickly to compassion. His wrath relented on consideration, both of their trespass and their provocation, and though his anger for their guilt accused them, yet in his understanding he excused them. For none who can, he thought, will ever fail to further himself in love or slip from jail. His heart took pity on the women, too, whose weeping always made so much ado. So he took counsel with his noble heart, Fie on the prince who plays the lion's part, both to the contrite and the stubborn man who still maintains the evil he began. Small is his wit. We're going to read that part a second time. So he took counsel with his noble heart, Fie on the prince who plays the lion's part, both to the contrite and the stubborn man, who still maintains the evil he began. Small is his wit, he told himself, who traces no shade of difference between such cases, but weighs humility and pride as one. Thus, in a moment, when his wrath was done, he spoke in full voice, with his eyes alight, and said, The God of love, ah, bless my sight! He is a God that spurns all obstacles. He may be called a God of miracles, for he can do just as the whim may seize him, with every living heart, as it may please him. Consider Palamon and Arcite here. Out of my prison they were safe and clear, and might have gone to live in Thebes like kings. They know I hold their lives, and yet love brings these two faithful servants here to die. This is a folly to record on high. Who is a fool if not a man in love? Look for the sake of God who sits above. See how they bleed. Are they not well arrayed? The God of love has generously repaid their service, dressing them in this red guise, and yet they think themselves completely wise to serve him still, whatever may befall. But think of this, the richest point of all. She for whose sake they held this bloody spree owes them as little thanks as they owe me. By God, she knew no more of this affair than if she had been a cuckoo or a hare. But everything must be tasted, hot or cold. A man must be a fool once, young or old. I know it from my own experience. I've been myself a servant, long time since. And so, because I've tasted of love's pain, and know the discord of that old refrain, as one caught in the snare for many a session, I utterly forgive you your transgression. Since the queen asks it, who is kneeling here, and Emily, whose wish is also dear. But you shall both upon your honor swear, never in any realm of mine to dare make war against me, either night or day, but be my friends as truly as you may. They swore the oath, and graciously he said, In point of birth, each one of you might wed a princess or a queen. But Emily, for whom you held this strife and jealousy, you understood she cannot be two wives, although your feud went on for all your lives. One of you or the other must play the man, and whistle for his comfort where he can. What destiny ordains, each must fulfill. So if it pleases you, this is my will. Go where you like, for each of you is free, without a ransom or a penalty. And 50 weeks hence, to decide your rights, each one of you shall bring 100 knights, armed for the lists. I promise without fail, upon my word, whoever shall prevail, and kill his adversary, or overcome the other 100 knights, and drive them from the lists that I shall furnish in this place, he shall wed Emily by fortune's grace. And God apportion me his mercy duly, as I shall judge the issue fair and truly. If this proposal seems to you well made, speak out your minds, and count yourselves repaid. Whose looks but Palamon are now alight? Who leaps for happiness, if not our sight? Down on their knees fall the whole company to thank Prince Theseus, and especially the 2 knights. Then they take their leave and ride home to the walls where Thebes lies old and wide. And that's the end of part 2. Good night. Sleep well. I love you.